And markets analyst and NewsMax contributor Seth Denson and accounting professor at Montclair State University, Dan Geltrude. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, good morning.
Great to have you both back. Seth, Dan, been an interesting week, and it's only Thursday, but I want to talk about Credit Suisse. We've been watching this all week long. Again, one of the biggest banks on the planet. They're now going to get bailed out by the Swiss government. The stock price now around $2.15 a share, close to an all-time low. What do you make of this? Basically, what is the biggest bailout we've seen of a bank since 2008?
Dan, you want that one or you want me to go?
Seth, all you.
We're going to call it. All right, great. Listen, I think here's a bailout, there's a bailout, everywhere there's a bailout. I think that's just going to be the running theme here on any of these banks. And candidly, they have to. We don't love the word bailout. From a capitalistic perspective, it just kind of gives you that I don't feel so great about that. But if you're a depositor and you put money in these banks, put yourself in those shoes. Do you want those deposits to be protected? Yes, you do. Now, my hope is that everyone running these banks and that are running these things into the ground goes away forever, whether that's jail or whether that's to just an island that we stick them on. I don't care. But they should never have access to anyone's money ever again.
Yeah, great point. Speaking of depositors, Dan, a lot of large banks now are seeing a record number of depositors. So people are pulling their money from these small to mid-sized banks, putting them in these bigger banks because they're concerned. But what does this do for small and mid-sized banks?
Well, it's certainly going to have an impact on the smaller banks, and you have to wonder whether this is really necessary, because let's remember there is FDIC insurance up to $250,000, $500,000 on joint accounts. Yes, there could be some exposure related to business accounts, which certainly go over those numbers. However, the White House just showed that they will step in and protect depositors. A precedent has been set. So I think that should calm people down for right now, and let's see what happens.
I agree with you there. There's a First Republic Bank not far from our offices here in Midtown Manhattan. I didn't see a big line out front, so there's not a run, even with rumors of rough days ahead when it comes to First Republic Bank. Seth, this headline from the New York Times a day ago: "Don't call it a bailout." Basically, Washington haunted by the 2008 financial crisis. Why are we so afraid to say bailout? And then I'll just add to that. So 2 banks failed over the weekend. If another U.S. bank fails, what does that mean? Well,
to the first question, we don't call anything by what it is anymore. That's that's an epidemic across the country. Nobody's wanted to use the word recession. Nobody's wanted to use boys, girls, you name it. All that being said, as far as the second part of the question, is just going to get so lost in the first one. Rob, what was the second part?
I'm wondering. So I think there's this narrative out there that the bleeding is stopped. What we saw over the weekend, those will be the only 2 banks to fail. But yet, if you really look into this, a lot of banks are in trouble. It can't just be Silicon Valley Bank that was making really bad investments. Yeah, no, and a lot of it has to do with the bond market, right? So, for these banks that put money in these long-term bonds, and now what interest rates have done is force those bond yields to fall. That's a problem because they haven't reached maturity, and you've got to pull those dollars out. And that's the thing. If you think about it long-term, you think that long-term bonds are safer. Well, that yield curve has been sitting there for a very long time. And as a result, those long-term bonds have become less safe. And that's a problem. But here's the deal, Rob. We all knew it was going on. And so the fact that these banks just sat there, SVB, for example, and NewsMax reported on this all day yesterday, and it was a great point. They had 1 investment banker on their board, only 1.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. All right, Seth Denson, Dan Geltrude, thank you so much. We'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, y'all.